Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show, and it's the end of the world as we know it, or it might be. Tonight we're going to be discussing the situation in Kashmir around with there's escalating tensions with India and Pakistan over the recent terrorist attack. I'm here with my now usual, I don't know what to call you, Stop. Shall I call you co-host, panelist? How would you label yourself?
I don't know. Now you caught me. I've got no clue.
I'll call you. I'll tell you what. I'll call you my helper monkey. How's that?
There you go.
Right. So yes, I'm here with Stops again, which is great. And
T-boy.
There you go. And we are also joined by another former co-host of the show. He's going to be doing the presentation tonight, and we have Nick here, even though it's not actually Andrew Tate for anyone who's confused at the moment. So welcome back, Nick. Nice to have you here. You're going to be doing a presentation today, aren't you?
Yeah, I did quite a bit of research for this script, or this topic here, just due to some personal connections I have towards it. So I thought, what better way to bring me to the Gin and Tonic Show than to have a terror attack, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's the best way. So what we're going to do is we're pretty much just going to jump straight into it because Nick has got a whole bunch of stuff lined up. I think you're going to be going into a little bit of the history as well as details of the attack and the current situation there, which will be fascinating because it's a region which I'm not that good on. So I'm going to be handing over to Nick and being mostly quiet, but Stops and I are going to be here to ask questions, make insightful comments or bad jokes. And we may also have a few more people joining us on the panel tonight. So I will let them in if and when they turn up. But for now, Nick, I'll throw things over to you and you can get started.
And just by chance, I happened, really, this was coincidence. I happened to watch an interview today in the morning between an Indian guy and a Pakistani guy discussing exactly this topic. So quite interesting.
That's a deja vu. So if Moose comes in on time, that'll happen again.
Okay, well, we've got our first person to add to the panel. This is Hassan. Hello, my friend. Nice to have you.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, it's great. Well, I mean, this is good. Obviously, some people may know Hassan if you're a regular watcher of my channel. He runs a YouTube channel called Evolution Facts of Hassan. It's very good debunks of Dawa apologetics, particularly around science. And Hassan is an ex-Muslim, and you are of Pakistani heritage, aren't you, Hassan? I've got that.
No, I'm of Iraqi origin.
Oh, you're of Iraqi? Oh, Jesus Christ. I apologize. See, this is...
It's okay.
On continent. It's like speaking to a wall, isn't it?
I'm immediately going to be accused of racism now, of fuck it, I'm not even going to try and dig myself out of this hole. Anyway, apologies, Hassan.
No, it's okay.
Don't worry.
Anyway,
racism.
So it's great to have Hassan here, and we may have a couple more people. But anyways, we were just going to throw things over to Nick to kind of get the ball rolling on the presentation. Sorry, Stop. You were in the middle of speaking. Did you want to add anything else before Nick goes ahead?
No, that was it. I wanted to say this. What a coincidence this is.
Sorry, Hassan. Did you actually want to say anything before we get started? Sorry.
No. You get on. I'll try my best to contribute. I'm not like an expert on this area, but I'll.
Me either. Although Hassan, I'd say you are coming across a little bit low on your volume, so maybe if you can turn that up.
Okay, yeah, I'll try that.
But right, we'll hand over to Nick then, and you go ahead, mate, and let me know if you want to put up any slides, pictures, etc.
Yeah. So, firstly, just to start off with this topic, this is based off of a terror attack that happened in Kashmir for around 26 people that died due to terrorists who claimed to be from an Islamic background, and the reason why I bring it up is we'll find out a bit later. But essentially, what happened is for the area, I've actually personally went to the Falgam area in Kashmir before. It's a mountainous area. It's one of the few areas in that area that doesn't have like trout farms or tourism and such. So it's one of those places, almost like a national park, that's like very picturesque that you can go. I've done some photography projects there. But what they did was there were 4 terrorists from the TRF and the LET, both organizations that Pakistan has advised that they send funding to help secure their border, especially in POK, or the Pakistani-controlled Kashmir. They actually came in and killed 26 people. And the way they did it was very, how would you say, despicable, where they would actually ask these people, are you a Hindu or are you a Muslim? When these people, like, fearing for their lives, would say, oh, I'm Muslim, they would actually either ask them to chant a verse of the Quran if they're a woman, or if they're a man, they would actually ask them to drop their pants to check if they're circumcised or not. And if they weren't circumcised, they would be shot. It was one Nepalese person and 25 Hindus that were killed in this terror attack. And unfortunately, the government's not doing too much.
Sorry, we got someone's. Sorry to interrupt, but we got some shouting in the background. I'm not sure who's that.
Sorry.
All right. Okay. Thanks, mate. Yeah, if you can just keep on mute while that's happening. Sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
No worries. So what essentially happened was they've mentioned a compensation around 10 lakhs, which is around 1 million rupees, which I believe adds up to like 10,000 Canadian dollars or such. And then around $4,000 for serious injuries and $1,000 or $80,000 or $8,000, or not 8,000, but almost $1,500 for anyone who was suffering minor injuries while they investigated this. And now what happened during this issue is that, I'll cover this a bit later in my PowerPoint presentation, but India has stopped dam that they keep open and regulate for the Shalem River, which as per a treaty they had in the 1960s, until Pakistan brings these terrorists back to India so they can face their justice. Pakistan says, I'm going to take it as a threat, and they've released and India just released the water. Now there's nukes pointing, and we're at the brink of a nuclear war.
Nick, can I just, I don't want to interrupt you too much, obviously,
Yeah.
but I was just, there are some questions that I wouldn't mind asking about that treaty. Should I wait until, are you?
At any point, I want to make sure this...
But I mean, if you're going to sort of cover that stuff in your presentation, then I'll leave it for now and just let you carry on, but...
Yeah, but go ahead. I'd much rather have like the questions and make it more of a discussion, right?
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, I was just going to ask about that treaty then. Can India just do that then? Is there provisions in this treaty that they can just unilaterally sort of withdraw or divert the water, or is there supposed to be some kind of consequences? Like, I don't know the details of the treaty. Could you give us a bit more on that?
So this is one of the many treaties that was actually designed by the United Nations in one of the 3 wars that I'm going to cover. But the actual control of the river is done out of courtesy for Pakistan, not as an actual part of that treaty. So
right, okay,
it's one of those things where like it's still technically a part of the UN-mediated treaty that everyone needs to follow, but it was more so added by India out of courtesy rather than. Yes, they actually claimed there's actually a minister that the defense minister actually claims this organization as one of their paramilitary forces, which is code for terrorist organization.
See, that's quite weird because I'm sure I've seen on the news that the Pakistan was denying that, and they were saying, "Oh no, we didn't sanction this attack. It was nothing to do with the Pakistani government." So you're saying that they've admitted it then, that it was kind of.
So it wasn't an official statement from the government, but a defense minister himself was saying that these are the people that that did the terrorist attack work for these 2 terrorist organizations, which are paramilitary organizations of Pakistan.
Okay, right, cool.
Yeah, so with that actual attack, I want to refrain from actually showing any of the footage because the footage that was actually recovered is quite graphic, where it actually does show the terrorist literally pulling down their pants to check if they're circumcised or not. And this actually happened for many of the victims that died. But I do have a video from a channel which I think is very neutral in how they review their action that covers this attack directly. So if you are okay, I would like to share that video as well. That basically,
go ahead.
Briefly before I jump.
Go ahead.
Okay. So let me just pull this
up.
Yeah,
as long as it's something that's not going to, I mean, I don't want to get the channel shut down on my fourth episode. So
yeah, we reacted to this channel before here, and it didn't cause any issues. So I don't foresee this causing an issue as well.
How long is this video, Nick?
It's 6 minutes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and start it then?
Yeah.
Anti-terror operations in the Kashmir rally and continued ceasefire violations by Pakistan. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi today. And the meeting, which took place at the Prime Minister's official residence, lasted nearly 30 minutes and comes in the wake of the Pahalgam terror attack that claimed 26 lives. This is the first face-to-face meeting between the two leaders since the terror attack. Chief Minister Abdullah briefed Prime Minister Modi on the ground situation in the valley as well, including the ongoing anti-terror operations, security preparedness, and cross-border challenges. Well, the meeting holds immense significance as ceasefire violations by Pakistan have continued for 10 consecutive days along the line of control, prompting heightened tensions across border sectors. The meeting comes days after Omar Abdullah apologized to the families of Pahalgam terror attack victims, and that's during the special session in Jammu and Kashmir Assembly.
Nick, can you pause it a sec?
Yeah.
Can I just ask, has there actually been any incursions across the border? Has it all just been like sniping at each other and but not actually, doing proper troop movements?
So they did secure the border, and it's more snipe based, but they actually haven't, because they're both nuclear powers, and they do have a ceasefire line that's in between both countries there. So if anyone was to cross it, that's it would initially be a start of a war kind of deal.
Yeah, no, I assume that. That's why I just thought I'd clarify. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not throwing water balloons at each other, right?
Oh no, they're firing at each other. I mean, shoot. I don't know if there's been any casualties or anything, but they're definitely shooting at each other.
There's actually this really interesting story that I really like about this gentleman named Major Unnikrishnan. He was actually a special paramilitary officer, and he was one of the people that actually led the protection of the civilians during the 26/11 terror attack. And this guy was so, I don't know if he's courageous or stupid for doing this, but he would regularly cross this line to play cricket with the Pakistani children there. He's like, yeah, these kids shouldn't suffer. Like, let me go play cricket with them for an hour or so. And then the Pakistani government would be like shooting him. And that's when he would like casually walk back. But there's accounts of him like going across the border, playing some cricket with the kids and coming back quite regularly. So although it was tense for a lot of the time, a lot of the people there, they speak Hindi on the Indian side, and they speak Urdu on the Pakistani side, and the speech of that is very similar. So if Moose actually speaks Urdu, I actually understand it very fluently, even though I can't read the text. So the people there were somewhat friendly with each other, even though the actual line or the legality of it was very stressful. Right. But also in other places, they had a lot of the places where the holding of the terrorist organization, it was also really volatile too.
Okay.
जम्मू कश्मीर की सिक्योरिटी, जम्मू कश्मीर की सुरक्षा, जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों की.
Although I am not in charge of law and order, I invited tourists to visit Kashmir as a CM and tourism minister. As their host, it was my duty to look after them and ensure their safety. I was not able to do so. I have no words to say sorry to the tourists.
I somewhat like, but also hate this guy's apology here as well, just because it is the security is his responsibility. He's essentially I think in Canada we call his position a premier, but it's more like a governor for a province or for a state, and they have a lot more power than the federal government. They've centralized the power, or they've centralized the power to the states rather than the federal government taking majority of the power. So at the end of the day, the security of the state, the police force and everything is run by him, and it is his responsibility there.
That's kind of typical of a politician, though, isn't it? I mean, even when they sort of apologize, they never actually really take a responsibility or accountability for it, do they? It's like, yeah, I'm sorry. It doesn't mean I have to do anything about it, but.
मेजबान होते हुए मेरी जिम्मेदारी थी कि सही सलामत मैं इन्हें यहाँ से वापस भेजूं.
In continuing its crackdown on terror networks, Srinagar police has intensified searches across multiple locations in.
So I actually have relatives that work in that city as well, in the military.
The city, targeting associates of proscribed terrorist outfits. Searches are being conducted at the residences of 5 suspected terror associates, with a focus on seizing arms, documents, and digital devices, which are all crucial to gathering information, evidence, and even intelligence. Meanwhile, the Director General of the National Investigation Agency, NIA, is expected to return to Delhi tonight with the initial investigation report on the Pahalgam terror attack. The report is set to be submitted to the Union Home Ministry for further action.
So what they actually forget to mention here is that another incident, the terrorists actually put in bombs in their house. So when the terrorists, when the military actually went to a terrorist's house, the bomb blew up, injuring the officers as well.
Nick, is there any chance you could play this on maybe 1.25 speed? Because
let me just
just to look things up.
Yeah, so let me just increase the speed here.
Because I don't think she's talking too fast, so it should be fine. I don't know about other people, but I tend to listen to most things sped up these days. So.
Yeah, I normally use 1.5.
Yeah. Well, we'll go for 1.25 just in case it's too quick for the audience.
And for more on this, our special correspondent Idris Lone is now joining us from Srinagar. Idris, the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister has met the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It comes after the Pahalgam terror attack. Talk to us about the significance of this meeting.
Well, yes, the first meeting of the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir with the Prime Minister after the Pahalgam attack. We've been told by sources that the Chief Minister apprised the Prime Minister about the current situation in Jammu and Kashmir, especially after the Pahalgam attack. We've also been told that they discussed security measures should be tightened all across Jammu and Kashmir, and that was the main focus of the meeting. While as the Jammu and Kashmir is a union territory, and the security as well as all the major security establishments come under the central government directly. But Umar Abdullah just wanted to apprise the Prime Minister of the current situation, as well as especially the volatile borders, line of control and international border that has been witnessing ceasefire violations from quite.
So one important point that he actually brings up there as well, when he mentions a union territory as opposed to a state, it's almost like Washington, D.C., where it's a separate union territory itself. It's not a part of New York or whatever state that it's technically encased in. So they have a lot more security responsibilities on themselves. So and the reason why they do that, they don't want the federal government, is because of the turmoil of the local population not seeing India's federal government as the oppressors there for wanting to join Pakistan.
Sometime now, actually 9 consecutive nights. If we could talk about the ground situation at the moment, Rahesha, we've seen that massive crackdown on the over-the-ground workers has been launched by security forces all across Jammu and Kashmir, especially the Kashmir division, wherein 80 over-the-ground workers were booked under Public Safety Act and UAPA. We've also seen around 120 houses being raided by security forces across various districts, especially the over-the-ground workers, as security forces believe that there were around 15 over-the-ground workers who were in constant touch.
Here's another thing as well. It is blurred in as well, but they actually lined up the people in order to do it as well. That's what makes it a bit more disturbing.
With the terrorists who carried out the Pahalgam attack, and at that time also they were helped with the logistics, as well as they helped them with the recce of the Baisaran meadow, We also know from our sources in the security that basically they wanted to carry out, the terrorists wanted to carry out this attack in any of the tourist spots. But they went to Gulmarg first, where they saw the security measures tightened, and that was stalled. Later on, they went to Pahalgam, where they recceived 3 places, Baisaran, Adu, as well as Betab Valley. And later they decided that Baisaran would be the place for the attack, because the security measures there were very least as compared to the other places. And that's why they carried out the carnage. And after carrying out this attack, they managed to escape into the forest area. However, the combing operation at 4 places in Anantnag is being carried out even right now. We've seen not only Jammu and Kashmir Police, Indian Army paramilitary forces, but their commando wings have also been brought in to basically narrow down and nab the attackers of the Pahalgam attack. On the other side, line of control also very volatile. We've seen at 3 places.
Nick, could you pause it a sec? Yeah, I was just going to ask, what is the current status of the those that carried out the attack? Have they all been caught or killed? Were they still on the run?
Yeah, so they're all currently. So one of them has been caught, but then his house was also rigged with a bomb, and I still believe they're working to catch the others. And this video was uploaded 2 hours ago, so this is the most up-to-date information as well.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so they caught one guy, but then he rigged his house, injuring the officers involved, and then the other 3, I believe, they're still working on him.
Cool. Fire violation from the Pakistani side in North Kashmir's Kupwara and Uri, while as in Jammu's Akhnur sector. We've earlier seen also on the international border, Pakistan Army breaking the ceasefire. So basically, if we talk about the whole of Jammu and Kashmir, situation extremely volatile, but security forces making sure that everything, especially in the valley, remains peaceful.
Right, Idris, and talking about the meet between the J&K Chief Minister and the Prime Minister, this is the first meet between both the leaders, and it also comes after Omar Abdullah issued an apology in the special session. But thanks for getting us the latest, Idris.
Yeah, so now I want to mainly cover the history of the region and why it's so fucked up. But in terms of the actual attack, if there's any questions or points you guys want to
can I just start off with one question?
Yeah.
It's always, again, this shows my ignorance, but I see on the news it's always referred to as Indian occupied Kashmir, but then I don't see it like the Pakistani parts of Kashmir. They're never referred to as Pakistani occupied, that I can remember seeing. Is that just some random glitch in the media I've been watching, or is it considered that India are kind of in breach and it really should all be Pakistani territory? I'm not sure what the international position is.
Yeah, so that's actually what I'm going to cover into. So in the treaty as well, half of it is actually under India, and then the other half is under Pakistan as per the UN negotiation. But
isn't there a bit that China controls as well?
Yeah, China has a little bit of a hold that they actually occupied.
Right. And do we ever get terrorist attacks in that region, from the
yeah, quite regularly. Tibetan Buddhist attacks.
Oh, right. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So
yeah. Did you want to
PowerPoint here? My laptop's the 10-year-old laptop here.
I know the feeling. I can't see anything yet.
Yeah, so let me just pull up the actual map as well, just to show. So firstly, I just want to start off with map here before I start.
Well, dude was just asking for that, so yep, dude, we've got a map coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, my PowerPoint just crashed, so it's I'll just share the map just to show the basic idea in geography for those who don't know, and then we can proceed from there.
Nick, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Is Kashmir a region, or does it consider itself to be a state, a country?
It's a region in India. So this region,
specific.
So this is the map of India. This area here is Kashmir. It's a province.
Nick, can you enlarge that map a bit, because it's a bit of a squinter, this one.
Let me just.
I mean, if you can't, don't worry about it. But
because I'm still unclear whether there's a government in Kashmir or whether it's autonomous, or whether it is.
I always thought that Kashmir was split between Pakistan and India, but both countries claim all of it. That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's what I thought, including the part that the Chinese occupy.
Yeah.
I imagine Nick will.
Yeah,
Get
so
onto that.
essentially the entire state of Kashmir follows this white line right here. You guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so can you guys see the enlarged map here that I'm showing? Or
It's a bit small, to be honest.
So let me just share this tab here. I have the map enlarged here. Yeah, so this is this white line that I'm bordering is the entire line of Kashmir. Now, Section A is what Pakistan takes care of, but India wants. Part B is where India takes care of. And then C, this section here, is all what China has occupied.
Oh, so they haven't got much then, have they? That looks like only a small part of it.
Yeah, it's a small little part there. Majority of it is still under India and Pakistan. But the reason why it's such a strategic issue is because it's so close to Delhi. And most of this area, so this area is mostly covered by, in Gujarat, it has the Thar Desert. The easiest way to pass is through portions of Kashmir to get into Delhi.
I should add that China doesn't claim what it doesn't already hold.
Yeah, so these were actually encroached upon in a war with China in the 90s there.
Oh, they've only held it since the 90s. I thought they... Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I thought they... So what was that? Was that just an opportunistic kind of move by China then? Or...
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll start with my PowerPoint now just to give like a basic understanding of the... And I'll make it bigger just so I can see. So can you guys see my PowerPoint here?
Nope. Hang on. Yes, it's come up. Let me just put it up. Yeah, there we are.
Yeah. So just with this PowerPoint, I just want to basically cover the history of Kashmir, just because although it's one of the most volatile regions in the world itself. And
can you click on presentation?
If I start from the first slide, let's see what it does. Can you guys see my screen or?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, but there's a text left and right. So if you click on presentation, that's going to go away, and then we can actually read this.
No, that just got rid of it.
Yeah, I clicked on presentation.
Usual tech problems that Gin and Tonic shows played.
But do you understand what I'm saying? Presentation in PowerPoint, right?
Yeah, presentation here, just setting the presentation. So I have to share the whole.
Oh, yeah, because it'll make it larger, won't it, on the screen in terms of the text?
Exactly.
Yeah,
there we are.
All right, so next slide. So in essence, I've actually gotten all this research from .gov sites and actual research articles, not bullshit articles from places like Al Jazeera or other Hindutva sites there. So
disclaimer.
So please, I'm happy to discuss, but if you want to make any death threats to me, please shove them up your own asshole.
Well, yeah. Just for the audience benefit, I mean, Nick is of Indian heritage, so expect an incredibly anti-Pakistani biased presentation here. He's going to be really unfair. Go ahead, mate. I just thought I'd spoil it for you.
So, in a sense, let's just I'll talk about essentially why Kashmir is so relevant to India. So a lot of the Shaivism so Hinduism has two major components in it, Shaivism and Vaishnavism, which Vaishnavism is where you pray to Lord Vishnu, so like Ram, Krishna, and such. And then Shaivism is where with Lord Shiva, where you see those people in like Varanasi or like other areas in the Ganges that paint themselves in white ash and sit there and meditate, right? So that half of a sect of Hinduism was actually discovered in Kashmir, and it's the prominent area for that. So it also has a lot of Buddhist monasteries and such there, just because of the nature of the meditation that actually happens and the natural beauty. Some of the Buddhist monasteries that actually encroach into Afghanistan, which also borders Kashmir. There's actually a few monasteries in the Kandahar region that actually got blown up by ISIS just a year or so ago.
Oh, okay. Nice to see ISIS playing their usual positive role in the world.
Yeah, and one thing I would like to mention is that Kashmir, or a portion of Kashmir, was actually under the rule of a Greco-Indian kingdom. So when Alexander actually came until Kandahar and until Kashmir, and he fought Porus or Purushottam, he left the satrap there, one of his generals, King Milinda, who essentially converted into Buddhism with under the advice of Ashoka the Great, and he actually built Buddhist monasteries all over Kashmir and Afghanistan using Greek and Indian architecture mix there, and they were really beautiful. I actually got to visit one before, and the Taliban and ISIS both blew them up almost like a competition. So,
oh Jesus.
So in the 14th century, it was actually really peaceful during this time, but they actually brought a lot of Sufi influence from Persia in the 14th century, and Persian and Farsi were one of the languages that were actually a part of the ministry in the Kashmiri princely states. So it was they actually did accept Islam quite a bit. They also, one of the languages that you're allowed to speak in was Farsi. You could also do Arabic, and then Sufism had a really big rise there.
So wait a second, just to preempt this. So you've got Buddhists, Hindus, and surprisingly Muslims all living alongside by side peacefully. Yeah. So I'm assuming, is it the British Empire that comes in and fucks things up then? Because if it's not the Muslims, it's going to be the Brits, isn't it?
Yes, actually.
Yay! I feel like I'm winning today. I apologize on behalf of my ancestors, everyone. Sorry. Carry on.
So essentially, the British actually fought the Sikh Empire in the First Anglo-Sikh War, and the Gulab Singh, one of the Hindu Dogra kings from Jammu, he actually wanted to keep Kashmir, so he paid the British around 7.5 million rupees for that region and became the king. So he owned that land, but he was still a Hindu-ruled princely state within the British India, despite it having a majority Islamic population. And just to show the consensus for that, at around that time in 1921, one of the censuses that came out was in that region, 77% of the population was Muslims, whereas 20% was Hindus, and Buddhists and Sikhs were extremely low minorities. So any questions until this point? Or
all right, so at that point then, so in 1921, Muslims had already taken over 3/4 of the population.
Yeah, and that's when the fights would start, just because the Hindus all had like nice jobs and education and such, because like that the king was a Hindu, right? So most of his relatives and ministers were also Hindu, and they were taking more of the jobs and education in the ministry, and government jobs or such that were seen as respectable, but and with the minority or the majority of the population being Muslims and not having those same jobs, they kind of took it as a kick to the groin in essence.
I mean, I'm just a bit curious though, because I mean, you are talking over several centuries, so I could see there could be a gradual demographic shift, but were there any conflicts going on, or was this just maybe the Muslims are having more kids, or was there actually some conversions and stuff, or was it
So,
literally...
so during this time, even into until the 30s, it was actually really peaceful. So there were many times where, especially in rural Kashmir, with Hindus and Muslims, they would actually perform their rituals together. So there were cases when, let's say, Ram Navami and Eid were happening at similar time frames because they followed the lunar cycle. They would just host the festival together at one go. There was many accounts of that actually happening. So until the 1930s, until the next slide I get, it was actually very peaceful in many senses.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, stops. Isan, any questions there?
No, not from my side. No, everything. This is very clear what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so,
and I love the comments by this apology to the ancestors. This was. I nearly fell off my chair.
Well, you know, I always bring the humor, the dark humor. Go ahead, Nick. Carry on, mate.
Essentially, there's a group of people called the Kashmiri Pundits. They're basically Brahmins from Kashmir who are acknowledged in the Vedas, and they do a lot of their meditative practices and such. But because they were seen as more of the higher class in Hinduism, they often held the bureaucratic posts in the Dogra state with the king there. And many of the Muslims were basically like, I thought we were brothers, Mr. Kashmiri Pundit, why are you helping the government oppress us kind of deal. So that's when it started to get into more turmoil.
Okay.
And that's when in 1930s you started getting more protests with Shamir agitations and other slogans going in as Islam is Islam is in danger kind of slogans. And surprisingly, this happened when the Muslims started taking over with with a majority population. Until while they were in the minority, they were, oh yeah, let's come here, have some kheer on Eid, and I'll have some of your food on your festivals kind of thing. And then in the 30s, when they had the majority, that's when the riots started.
Yeah, but weren't you saying that they were already 77% of the population in the 20s?
So closer to the 30s, and then by the partition, it started getting closer to the 80% of the population, and then the Hindus population slowly starts dying until there something I'm going to cover in a future episode or a future slide. There was actually genocide of the Hindus that happened.
All right. We got a question there from the dude abides. Wasn't the 1930s the rise of Muslim Brotherhood therefore spilling over to Kashmir? Is that the case?
Yeah, that was one of the things.
So partly it was to do with a more kind of hardline Orthodox Islam creeping into maybe what was previously a bit of a softer touch Sufism. So that would have been at least one factor then.
Yeah. Okay. So when the 1947...
Hang on, Sufis were not the gentle touch. Remember, Sufis were incredibly harsh.
Actually, yeah, that's true. I mean, I suppose it depends what different period you're talking about. But yeah, actually, that is...
Exactly, yeah.
That is true, actually. Yeah, Sufis are not. They haven't got like this pacifist history necessarily. It depends what you're talking about, but I mean, it just seems that way. At least in Kashmir, though, if there was relative harmony between Hindus, Buddhists, and the Sufi Muslims there for a couple of centuries, then it suggested to me that there was it was like a softer Sufism, maybe. But I don't know. Maybe I've got that completely wrong, but.
So there was actually a shift into more of a Wahhabi style philosophy that came in that made them more traditional, which I am going to cover a bit. But yeah, they definitely started transitioning at this point. And one of the triggers was in 1947 when the British fucked off. India was trying to like consolidate into one country. Where
can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Because I saw Mohammed Hijab video, and he was claiming that the British deliberately left the Kashmir region kind of unstable or undecided as a kind of deliberate ploy to do damage. I don't know whether there's any reality to that, or whether that's just hijab doing his conspiracy theories or not.
So this conspiracy theory definitely exists that they, when the British were leaving, they wanted to come back and rule India, so they left Kashmir in turmoil between the Hindus and the Muslims. But what essentially happened was during the partition period, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he was the founder of Pakistan. He actually asked if they can have a separate country for Muslims or a separate state for Muslims. Nehru at the time said, no, we're not going to make you a separate state. It's all under the federal rule kind of thing, just so he can have control over the country, which kind of Nehru could look, in hindsight, Nehru could have prevented all this by giving an actual independence province to Pakistan, kind of like Gujarat or Andhra Pradesh or Telangana, because at the end of the day, in present time, the states have the same powers that Jinnah was essentially asking for Pakistan as part of India. Nehru told him to fuck off, and he created Pakistan. That's when the partition started.
Nick, I have a question. When was the split between India and Pakistan?
It was in 47. I forgot the exact date. Let me just get.
So it's also around this time period.
Yeah. So it was and that partition was the trigger for when the king wanted to join into India.
Yeah, but this was a split exactly between the Hindus and the Muslims, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So what role was Kashmir doing for the Hindus at that moment in time? I mean, for me, what you are saying is that Kashmir was actually more Muslim than Hindu.
Yeah, but so what the Hindus essentially, the Hindu king wrote the actual kingdom over to India, the Indian government, and then that area also has a lot of the Hindu temples, like I was mentioning with the religious.
This doesn't make sense to me.
So despite the Muslims being like 3/4 of the population, or maybe nearly 80% of the population, it was still the rulership was Hindu.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, okay.
This is crazy because we're talking about belief systems being implemented and causing chaos.
And that's one of the things.
No wonder the British left. They didn't know what the hell to do with this.
Essentially,
I mean,
what they did was the Maharajas actually stayed neutral for a good few months, but he was kind of like scared that if he joined Pakistan, his Hindu and Sikh subjects would kind of like, because during the partition, a lot of riots were happening and the Hindus and Sikhs were being killed. So he was kind of like in a protective state, wanted to be an independent state. But after a few months, he joined into India, even though the Muslim population.
It's like a storm in a teacup. I mean, this is so nonsensical in my eyes.
Well, I mean, I just want to say, like, I'm not trying to defend British colonialism or anything. You know, I acknowledge the historical exploitation and the violence and everything else that went on. But I have to say, there would have not really been violence unless there was this underlying religious tension, surely. Because if everyone was able to get on peacefully, then why was there fighting in the first place? So, I mean, I'm not saying that the British, the way they withdrew as well, I know it was really haphazard and probably was a big contributing factor to how bad the violence was. But again, if everyone was, I get the feeling if everyone was Hindu or if everyone was Muslim, there probably wouldn't have been any fighting, would there? Maybe I'm oversimplifying it. I don't know. But.
Well, no, that is fundamentally flawed. Look at Muslims amongst each other.
Well, yeah, and actually also there were Sikhs as well.
I mean, look at 10 years, Iraq versus Iran. My goodness. No, they can't get along.
Sorry, Nick, carry on, mate.
No worries, yeah. So with the 1947 in October, they actually had a when India actually like took over Kashmir at like with the contract, Pakistan started sending their paramilitary tribal leaders and such, and to loot and kill non-Muslims, including the Sikhs, Hindus, and such, and targeted the Pandit communities there because they want to force Pakistan to join into or Kashmir to join into Pakistan, even though the king has written off the land that he's purchased to India.
Okay.
And so when the invaders got to Srinagar, which is the capital there, Har Singh, or the king, actually fled and appealed for India's military to help, and they only decided to help if he was to sign it off to him. So that's when the first war started.
So that's how India that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, because I was wondering how they first kind of got hold of the territory, but that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's when the first war started. So a full-scale war started when with the tribal forces of Pakistan and then the Indian army. And India took the matters to the United Nations, which I believe was a useless organization, but they actually set a line in the Kashmir Valley in Ladakh, and then the Azad Kashmir and Balochistan in the Pakistan area, and that became the line of control, but it's the official ceasefire line.
Yeah, wasn't it? Sorry, if you're going to address this, but this is the one thing I remember. Wasn't the UN supposed to set up like a plebiscite, a vote to decide on the region, and then it didn't take place, or have I got that wrong?
Yeah, so that's the next point. So they actually did.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Yeah, so they did have a vote, but it actually never happened because Pakistan. The condition was that India would have a ceasefire if Pakistan removed all its troops from the Kashmir area, and then India would put whatever it needed, like the bare minimum for law and order. But the thing is, Pakistan never withdrew its forces, violating the condition there, and then that made India put in more forces. So that's why a plebiscite was never actually fully achieved.
So were both India and Pakistan supposed to remove their forces and then just have like a skeleton kind of security force? But India agreed, but Pakistan didn't. Is that right? Okay.
So the Pakistani government did, but then their individual tribal people just continued to like hold their arms. The people that originally started the war.
Oh, right. Okay. Tribalism, typical.
And that's when the line of control was actually created. So
that's what it's known as, literally called the line of control.
Yeah.
Okay.
So next in 1972, there was another war, and that's when the Simla Agreement comes in. That's when the the dam was built. So in 1971, they actually had a war that led to the independence of Bangladesh from Pakistan. India actually was able to give a lot of pressure just because of them holding the midpoint between Bangladesh and Pakistan itself. And that's when Indira Gandhi and Pakistani President Zulfikar Ali Bhutto actually signed the contract itself. And these were the main points that they wanted here. So the ceasefire line from 1949 was realigned. They officially named it from the ceasefire line to the line of control. And then both sides did actually commit to respecting this line and agreed not to alter it unilaterally. And it stayed with a status quo there.
Okay.
And with the plebiscite, they basically put into essentially a quote-unquote cold storage, and both India and Pakistan did keep their forces there, but India did hold up to the agreement that it put up. And then Pakistan argued that the agreement did not invalidate earlier UN resolutions, but agreed to pause active pursuit at the UN level.
So this feels very much like a Korea situation then. After the Korean War, essentially like almost an eternal ceasefire rather than an actual end to the conflict officially.
Yeah. So it's almost identical to that, except America and such weren't actually helping in these conflicts. It was more just the individual countries.
Yeah, I was going to ask, were there any kind of outside powers that were significantly involved, or was it literally just was India and Pakistan and the rest of the world basically was just staying out of it?
Essentially, yeah, because the Brits and such, they were in their own world, doing their own battles there.
Because I'm surprised like somebody like China might not have been involved. Because
China had more effects in this area. But they had their own war in battle with India, but that was it's still related to Kashmir, but it wasn't related to this conflict directly.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking, because I know there's other territorial disputes, isn't there, between India and China? I think there's some other land, I think, that they're arguing over.
Arunachal Pradesh and parts of Kashmir. So Pakistan actually started something in 1965 called the Operation Gibraltar. And they basically had armed fighters that infiltrated Indian-occupied Kashmir, and they were starting to kill people in their terror attack. And a lot. This is what happened. This is actually a really good thing. The local Kashmiri Muslims actually chose to not rebel against their Indian government.
Well, why was that?
Just at this point, there was a lot of like communal benefits where they just finished the partition, and a lot of people actually who stayed in the Kashmir region wanted to be in the Kashmir region, just because this is just a few years after the partition and other wars, right?
I mean, this might be a crude comparison. I'm sure it is, but is that could you make some sort of parallel between that and say the Arab Israelis who kind of, stayed in the newly formed Israeli state and have kind of
Moose is asking you to let him in.
Oh, is Moose there? Oh, hang on. Hey, Moose, how's it going?
The Pakistani invader is here.
Yeah, I mean, Nick has just been trashing your country, mate, non-stop. So
I know, fuck you, Nick. Fuck you, you bloody bastard.
Fuck you. Come.
Hey, that's
right. Well, just for the audience, Moose is another. Oh, sorry, go.
Sorry, it was a great film. Kami Khushi Kami Gum is a great film. Don't trash that film.
I was just going to introduce you, Moose, just for anybody who doesn't know. Moose is a former co-host along with Nick, my immediate predecessor, and they ran the Gin Tonic show for about 3 years. And welcome back, mate. Good to have you back on.
Good to have everybody back. Hello, Stops. Hello, Shaitan.
Hi.
Plastic. Hello, wait.
It's Isan.
Isan, okay. So, interesting thing about the 1965 war that what I've heard in what was reported. Apparently, the famous Defense Day was born here because there was, even though Pakistan started the offensive, they never informed the Air Force or the Navy of this attack, of this invasion to India. So we had the three generals, I think Ayub Khan, there's another general, and of course, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was also involved in this plan to invade India. Because and funny enough, they named all their divisions after, conquerors, Muhammad bin Qasim and whatnot. And the problem was they never informed their other divisions of what was happening, of the plan. So, and if anything, the Air Force kind of saved Pakistan's ass in this situation. Otherwise, this would have been destructive for Pakistan. And like Nick said, the Kashmiris refused to join the movement, of course, to go against India. But also, the Indian army almost invaded Lahore, one of the big cities. And there were, yeah.
That is quite an escalation. That is bloody hell.
It quite escalated. And if anything,
I have a question, Moose.
Yeah.
Was the reason for India trying to acquire Lahore due to all the brothels there?
Actually, it was more about the club. They wanted to go to the Gymkhana club for some reason. One of the old Gymkhana club. Yeah, not the horse, but the Gymkhana club was that was famous there. Of course, Lahore has a famous diamond market. That's a different story altogether. But yeah, the when the Indian army like invaded, we had like a few, even some locals started like, they had some guns. Don't give Americans any ideas. Please don't give Americans any ideas. But the locals had guns, and they started like, terrifying the Indian army, because even the Indian army was like, why is this so quiet? Why is everything so quiet? And then they were very cautious. And I think until the Air Force arrived, then they had to like back away. So it escalated quite a bit. It was a lot of drama. And I think Pakistan lost a lot, but it had to regain some of what India had taken over. And the US and I think the Soviet Union had to, this was the Soviet, even I think one of the reports mentioned by Syed Muzammil, he's a great YouTuber, by the way. He does it in the Urdu language, but he said, this was the closest we got to World War III, because this could have escalated very badly.
Cheerful.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Why was it called Operation Gibraltar? Because that sounds more like something the Spanish would be planning against us. So
I don't know. Like, I know it was a weird, like, that was the Gibraltar was like their weird name to kind of disguise it, because their other plans, their other operations are usually named after like some historic Islamic fighter normally.
right.
Like Osama bin Laden.
No,
Who's the leader of
no,
Taliban?
no, Nick. I'm gonna whack you with the stick I have over here.
No. There's no stick whacking here. This is a new regime.
All right.
No corporal punishments. Nick,
Okay.
Nick, do you want to carry on with the presentation then? Because
Yeah.
So we're on slide 23 out of 35. So we're on a good roll here. But essentially, the Soviet Union came in and helped make an agreement to restore the status quo.
Oh yeah, Tariq bin Ziyad in the comments. Yeah. There was a cooperation. Oh, this one. Oh, let's. Oh.
What do you have to say? Yeah.
Oh. Okay. The Pakistani army, they were trying to suppress, under the presidency of Yahya Khan, they were trying to suppress the Bangladesh liberation movement. And in doing so, it is so horrifying that the Pakistani soldiers even were ordered to use, I don't want to say this, trigger warning, please, rape or sexual assault as a war weapon against the Bengali ladies, and to break the spirit. This was used, and Pakistan has not acknowledged this to this day of this war. Right now, what you see in the screen, nothing compared to what a lot of Bengalis and even non-Bengalis who were living in that region experienced. And even so, the Mukti Bahini was the Bangladeshi terrorist group, freedom fighters, terrorist groups, tomato. They also used that weapon as well, and it was very brutal. They also had a brutal standoff. So even though India was not justified in terms of the UN, according to UN regulations, it wasn't allowed. But because of the Pakistani army's actions, they came out as the good guys, so to speak. And the Indian army was able to very quickly make the Pakistani soldiers surrender within weeks. Because remember, Nick, there was that famous speech where Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was like, "Oh, we will continue to fight," and blah blah blah. Right? Remember that one?
Yeah.
And it was within weeks. He tore up a resolution from the UN that we'll continue to fight. Like, my guy, we're getting our asses kicked here by the Indian army. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it was very pointless chest thumping. I know again, you won't hear this from a Pakistani, but like this is unbiased Pakistani. It was a very humiliating defeat. Very, very humiliating defeat, because not only that, it got rid, the two nation theory. There was always that Pakistan's foundation or India's foundation is based on a two nation theory. Well, that went out of the window because now we have three nations. Because I thought this was supposed to be an Islamic state, and now your own Muslim brethren want to separate away from you. And there was a huge buildup to 1971. East Pakistan, which was Bangladesh's old name, East Pakistan, was not given any resources, not given any funding, were not provided with any of the materials, were not involved with the trade, very, very minimum share. And I think they were frustrated.
And that's basically what caused their own breakaway then, was just this kind of poor treatment. Okay.
Oh yeah, they were treated very poorly. So this was, of course, the 1972 Shimla Agreement, however, was what improved the relations, because the Shimla Agreement is kind of like the water agreement and the territories. And this was between Bhutto and Indira Gandhi, like the prime ministers of Pakistan and India. And this was a turning point. Like, okay, we're finally going to have some semblance of peace. We don't need the UN. We can talk it out. And in this agreement, they released some of the soldiers, some of the prisoners. They released a lot of prisoners. So this was, like, even despite that brutal war, this was a surprising turnaround in 1972.
I mean, Moose, to be fair, I mean, this treaty has survived for over 50 years now, hasn't it? So I suppose in some sense, I mean, it seems to be under threat now, but considering that there's been other wars and the treaty has managed to kind of
survive,
I mean, so I kind of do give them a bit of credit for keeping it going that long, considering how volatile everything is.
Exactly. And this was mostly, a lot of it has to do with the water flow, and neither side wants to, like, try to block the water for the other, because there's the water flow into the Punjab province, and there's 5 rivers that flow into Pakistan. And then I think there's 3 rivers that flow into India as well, too, from Kashmir. And I think
so it's not all one way then? I thought it was all one way from India to Pakistan.
Well, it is one way from India to Pakistan because India was able to take over that territory. However, India faces this issue that if they block the water, they might get flooded too, from a natural perspective. So it's also very stupid of them if they ever end up doing that. So it's kind of like they've kind of like, okay, let's agree that, okay, let's just keep the water running, Let's keep the water running. So similar, like you said, it's held up surprisingly well, given the Hindu-Muslim hate at the core of this.
Well, I suppose they realised that despite the hate, you've got to have some basic kind of minimum, like resources and infrastructure that is going to survive any particular war. You've got to have that longer term view, because otherwise everybody's fucked, kind of thing.
Yeah, and they've always seen, like, the in the 70s too, when Pakistan developed its nukes in the 70s. I think that's also what escalated the more careful approach. Like, India and Pakistan both have had a more careful approach because now both of them have nukes. So,
well, this is the theory, is it? I mean, this is why. Just to go to another conflict going on at the moment, this is why Ukraine must be so pissed off, considering they were told to give up their nukes with security guarantees, and then now you've got Russia's invaded them. Sorry, I don't want to divert too much from your presentation, I won't go too far down that road.
Yeah, I think it's never a good idea to give up your nukes, It's never a good idea from a strategic standpoint.
Listen, guys, get through the presentation, because otherwise, if we go at this rate, we will never finish.
All right, let's go.
Good point. Stops. Good point.
Yeah, so the next war is the 1999 Kargil War and Instructions conflict. So, again, like your friends all do, they dressed up again. This is nothing new. They dressed up as militants again, infiltrated Indian positions in Kargil, and then attempted to sever Ladakh, which is a portion of Kashmir, from the rest of it.
Yeah, the Kargil was this was a camp they attacked a camp, an Indian camp, when the soldiers were going on a break. And like you said, they disguised themselves as militants. They infiltrated the positions and they started to, attempt to take away. Now, this was the time when India and Pakistan relations were improving, but the Pakistani army had other plans. Because you see, we've already talked about the Pakistani army trying to muscle its way into the political sphere. Nawaz Sharif, the prime minister, and Vajpayee were just meeting in Lahore, but then Vajpayee was called back. And Nawaz Sharif didn't know that this was going on behind his back. They didn't even tell the prime minister that they infiltrated. And surprisingly, just 2 months ago, Pakistan and India had a groundbreaking cricket series because cricket diplomacy was used as a sort of okay, we play sports together, so this was happening. And then this severed the relation really badly, very, very badly. And yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Oh no, I was actually going to make those points as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, if anything, 99. In the reason Musharraf, the chief of army staff, just not following this, he attempted a coup in Pakistan. He presented himself as this new Mustafa Kemal Ataturk type of figure. And also, he tried to not only he was able to convince the Americans that, oh, I have a great strategic position for you guys in Afghanistan, and we can help you guys in Afghanistan. This is post 9/11, and they were able to even Vajpayee was able to reach out to Pakistan to say, okay, yeah, let's. Even in 2004 was the time where they tried to settle this again. Even despite that, I would give India the points here that, okay, they still tried to make this work.
Fair enough. I think, Moose, it's nice, all these additional details, but let's see if we can get through a bit more presentation, because we are already running nearly an hour and 10 minutes. I'm loving your contributions, but we want to get it done before midnight. So,
of course.
So this is where it moves on. So I mentioned before, there's a lot of harmony when it was a more Sufi kind of environment, but then with the Salafi radicalism coming on later. So in the 1400s, when it was more of a Sufi situation, there's a lot of tolerance for the local Hindus and Buddhists. People like Sai Baba and such that came out that were really into the more cultural mixing. It was really there's a lot of Kashmirite or Kashmiri cultural identity that has a mix of all these environments. But closer to the 80s and 90s, there was a rapid shift of Wahhabis from Saudi Arabia, and it was more of a strict interpretation of Islam. And a lot of these Sufi shrines and local customs were seen as un-Islamic. Many of the Pakistani organizations and intelligence networks like ISI seek political leverage in Kashmir because of this, and a lot of Gulf-based religious charities and donors.
Oh yeah, they needed the mentality for the Afghan jihad. This is when the Afghan jihad started.
Yeah, and that's when in the 90s, Kashmiri pundits actually lived, or Hindu Brahmins that lived in Kashmir had their heritage dating back over 5,000 years that we know of. And a lot of these scholars, poets, and administrators for the Shaivite traditions actually were there. So a lot of Shiva temples, like the Shankaracharya temple in Srinagar, or the Murtad Sun temple in Anantnag, are in Kashmir and hold a lot of cultural significance. But in the late 80s and 90s, they actually targeted and killed them. There's a movie called Kashmir Files. And one of the slogans that they would chant on top of their cars was Ralve, Salve, Galve, or convert, flee, or die. And And many Kashmiri Pandits were killed, kidnapped, or terrorized, and temples were publicly vandalized. So I believe 100,000 Pandits fled Kashmir, leaving their homes, businesses, as ancestral lands, and they lived in refugee camps in Jammu, Delhi, and other areas of India, and a lot of them still are on the streets.
Can I ask a question?
Who did this?
So this was
The Islamist. There were Islamist terrorist groups within Kashmir, radicals.
So this were jihadis.
Yes. And the
Okay.
interesting thing is, a lot of these jihadis were secretly trying to make deals with the Pakistani army or the military. That is, they were trying to make those deals.
Yeah, but what they tried to achieve is to get rid of the local population.
Yes.
Okay.
But we're still talking about a majority Muslim territory at this point, aren't we?
Yeah. Even though it is majority Muslim, there was a bigger presence of the Hindu diaspora, so to speak. So,
But see, this. Sorry, I just want to say, because here's a point I want to make, and it's depressing to think, because you had centuries of relatively peaceful coexistence, and then it took 10 years of Wahhabi influence to end it, and basically, have this ethnic cleansing in a sense take place. And this is one of the things that really does worry me about Islam: the fact that you can just have things turn on a dime like that after hundreds of years of peaceful coexistence. And this is why I have to say, I do think that Islam is, in that sense, more of a problem than other religions, because I can't think that you just be able to change it. Like, maybe you could with other religions, I don't know. But why is it that the rest of the Muslim population who'd been doing this more peaceful coexistence thing, how comes they weren't able to resist this Wahhabi influx? Why? I mean, were they essentially all just going along with it because they couldn't argue the scriptural basis?
well,
See what I'm getting.
The only resistance to this would be from Shia Muslims. Let's face it. Shia Muslims are the only ones who can resist this ideology.
But that's what I mean.
Unfortunately, Shia Muslims are not big in number.
But why do the rest of the Sunni Muslims, that they just acquiesce as soon as this extremism comes in? They roll over and essentially accept it, or whether they accept it or not, they certainly they're not able to resist it, and I'm assuming now that the much more orthodox kind of hardcore Sunnis is probably the dominant kind of religious view in the region at the moment. Would that be accurate, or have I got that wrong?
It's a little more complicated, because it's definitely more complicated, because I feel like what you're saying is, no, from that point, the reason they're not able to resist, the moderates at least, is because there's the state of confusion. I find this, I want to make this, Haris Sultan pointed this out as well, with Pakistan, as a case in point, Pakistan. The people, they cannot decide between having an Islamic state or a British democracy.
See, this is what terrifies me, quite honestly, because I'd like to believe, and I do believe that the majority of Muslims, say in Britain, don't want to live by an Islamic state, and that seems to be the case with the polling. But it seems that even if the majority don't want it, if the Islamists get into any kind of position of prominence, there's enough moderate Muslims who will just roll over rather than resisting it, and then you get the Islamic State anyway. And that I find it really frightening, because then it means, you're kind of worried then about the Muslim population increasing from that point of view. If you feel like there's not going to be a kind of resistance, and it might be unfair to compare that, because obviously British Muslims are going to have a different way of looking at things than, say, Muslims in Pakistan. But I don't know. It's just this rolling over for the extremists is it's just something that really does worry me.
Yeah, and I think it's because there's the core fundamental problem is, unlike the Christian world where you can make fun of Jesus, you can mock Jesus practically. In the Islamic world, that's practically not allowed, right? And I think that level of critique or criticism, because it's not allowed, or that level of inquiry, that's what it is from at least I'm thinking a core standpoint. From a core standpoint, that's why it's easy for the extremists to take more. If you give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's so much easier for them because the moderates are so fucking confused. I apologize for my French. Apologies for the French.
There's
Yeah,
actually
well-
a saying that we actually have in Telugu for this. It's
Yeah.
like Sandiste Chankektaru, literally means if you give him a small hole, he'll lick your armpit kind of deal.
God damn it! God damn it!
Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry,
so we got-
I've diverted the conversation a bit, but I was just kind of curious on that point. So,
Yeah,
Nick,
yeah.
did you
Today's
want to
your
carry on, Nick, with the
today's your
presentation?
lucky day. We got 2 more slides here, drastic.
Okay, cool. Go for it.
So these are all of Mustafa's best friends.
But hey! I am not friends with Lashkar-e-Taiba or Hizbullah Mujahideen or Jaish-e-Mohammed. Okay, maybe the last one, maybe the last one, but not the first two. Not the first two.
You're just a little bit of a terrorist. Okay, cool.
God damn it!
So
Go ahead, Nick.
these are the major groups that incite all the violence, and they're all funded by the
Yeah.
ISI or
And
the Pakistani
You know
intelligence.
what's funny? Lashkar-e-Taiba has been also allied itself with the Taliban. There's 2 divisions of the Taliban: the Afghan Taliban and the Pakistani Taliban, and they have allied themselves with the Taliban many times as well too. So these groups are fairly organized but split up as well too. You know, yeah.
Okay.
So it's Jaish-e-Mohammed is core objectives. Yeah.
All right, Nick, if you just want to finish the last slide.
Yeah,
then,
so this is the last slide here. So it was basically just I brought it up because it does help Moose's points there, just because they bring a lot of the propaganda into the local youth, and they're all funded. It's kind of like the CIA funding a lot of these places. The Pakistani or intelligence or the ISI really does fund a lot of these guys.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, I also blame the American CIA for counting the Mujahideen as their allies. And this is where the American CIA made a fundamental error, a huge fundamental error, ever considering these guys as allies against communism at that point.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to say, Isam said that he had to go, but he said thank you. He's you've got much more knowledgeable guests here, so he said he was going to pop off. But yeah, and Nick, I want to thank you for doing that presentation. That was very interesting. I do feel like I've learned quite a bit because my knowledge on the region was pretty piss poor. So that was really interesting.
A lot of research there.
Yeah, good job, mate. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah. So, any thoughts or anything that you guys want to mention for it?
No, I don't know. I think I asked all the questions that I wanted to during the. Well, I suppose there's this question: what do you see is going to happen now? Do you think things are going to escalate into an actual hot war? Because I know there's been all this tit for tat over expelling ambassadors and stopping and kicking people out of the country and stuff like that, and stopping visa travel. Do you think it's actually going to get to the point where we might see an actual war?
I don't think so. Only because I think cooler heads will still prevail, number one. And number two, the United States and Russia, as well as any of the superpowers in the region, can see they cannot afford a war in that region. Only because if someone fucks up with the nuke, we're not going to have, for 7 years, we're going to have a 7-year famine if even one of those explodes. So
yeah, but I mean, the thing is, though, as much as we can say that these large superpowers have influence, I mean, they can't control everything. I mean, is it not possible that...
Yeah, that's also another issue, too, because we already had the Ukraine-Russia escalation, right? And, yeah, you never know with this region, because we have we have the Pakistani army, and also we have like Mr. Modi on the other side. Their egos are stuck up their asses, and yeah, it's like two like man children who are responsible, literally, at this point. So you never know, it can escalate. Yeah.
In this interview that I heard this morning, but just by coincidence, the Pakistani guy was saying, listen, let us go to an outside arbiter and get somebody neutral, not involved in this, to go and look at the facts and then see if they can somehow mediate this.
Yeah.
And then the Indian guy said, no, we don't need this because we have submitted all the evidence. So take our evidence, what we call evidence, and judge on that. We don't. We gave everything to the United Nations. We don't need another investigation into this. But
yeah,
I'm sorry, I don't trust this. If one country says use only our evidence, that's not good enough for me. So I would, in this case, go with Pakistan and say, get an outsider, get somebody who is not involved in this, and let them do the investigation, let them do the research, let them gather this up, then do a presentation in front of the United Nations and let the United Nations say, okay, listen, this is what we need to do. Because at the moment, to me, it looks like this is a never-ending story, the same as with Gaza and the West Bank, because there are three parties here. We have India, Pakistan, and we have China, who are all interested in the same region for some odd reason.
But this is the thing. But stop. Where are you going to get a neutral party from? Because I mean, India is historically.
No,
well, you'd have what for maybe a South American country or something. I don't know.
For example,
yeah, because I mean, obviously, India is aligned, kind of Western aligned, and although Pakistan has connections with America,
and the Middle East as well too. Like
and India has kind of got something of an alliance with Israel as well, and it's there's so many different kind of interweaving webs here. Maybe Brazil, maybe they be considered.
Don't take a BRICS. It must be non-NATO, non-BRICS.
Yeah.
Argentina? No.
Maybe. Well, here's the thing. Like with also there was a New York Times article that it was written by an Indian journalist who said that India has to also face this reality too. Even though they are in a stronger military position, it's not going to be one-sided. You're going to have some casualties on your side because your equipment, 68% of it, has not been updated, whereas the Pakistanis, since 2001, post 9/11, have received a lot of funding, a lot of machinery. They've also been employed by Gulf states. Their troops have been employed by Gulf states to put down rebellions or take care of terrorist groups by Bahrain, by like Saudi Arabia. So they have had more training overall. So they are prepared for the war. So it's not like India wouldn't necessarily be completely prepared for this at all. So this is not a Pakistan of the 70s, 80s, or 90s, which they're going to surrender within a few weeks. Like, this is a little more advanced. The weapons are a bit more advanced. And on top of that, I agree with Stops. You definitely need a mediator in this. You definitely need a neutral party to like at least take both sides, both evidences, and consider it.
No, I was going to say, I think also for Pakistan, there's more of an existential threat, isn't there? Because they're the ones who are going to lose out more with the water supply. So desperation can lead you to fight harder in wars and all that kind of thing. So I mean, even though India's got the upper hand, that you're kind of playing with fire, aren't you? If you think of the wounded animal kind of analogy,
a
wounded animal can do a lot of damage even when when it's in a weakened state. So
remember what happened with Belgium and Germany in World War I. Germany thought it was gonna steamroll over Belgium. And that was quite the resistance from the Belgian army and the Belgian citizens as well, too. And, even the Nazis themselves, like when they were surrounded, they still put up a heck of a fight.
They were killing Russian soldiers at a rate of 20-1 in terms of the casualties that they were taking. That's how.
Yeah. Even though the Nazis were not in a good position at all. So yeah, like you said, it's and also Lahore and Islamabad are right at the border. Karachi is very close. Major cities are very close to the border. I think it's a bigger existential crisis for Pakistan to even survive here. So their survival depends on it, on this time bomb not exploding.
Yeah. So you think that what, maybe there'll be a bit more saber rattling, but behind the scenes they're probably going to try and de-escalate it because it would just be a disaster for everyone if this got worse.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This cannot lead anywhere good. And if this escalates, like again, India and Pakistan are like, this is not a one-sided thing like Israel-Palestinian territories. This is not going to be one-sided. This is going to be very disastrous for both sides. Because you see Israel dominating one side, but this one's not the same. Not the same at all.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm not sure what the relative sizes of the armies are. I'm not sure in terms of troops and all that. I mean, I'm assuming India has a numerical advantage, but it's Russia had a numerical advantage over Ukraine, and they fought pretty well.
And remember, in 2019, there were some planes, the Indian planes, that were put down by the Pakistani Air Force. So they did test the waters a bit, and it did backfire on India quite a bit. And it was quite the humiliation for the Indian military as well as the Indian government. And I don't think the Indian, at least military administration, would want to proceed with this because they are at least more aware of what the situation is. I think we have radicals in the government for sure, but you gotta think from a military strategic standpoint that is this going to be even worth it?
Well, yeah. The risk for what you could lose potentially, for what you could gain, it does seem a bit one-sided in favour of you've got a lot more to lose. Yeah, I mean, hopefully cooler heads will prevail then. I mean, yeah, I'd like to sort of end this on a kind of more positive thing rather than just saying, yeah, we're all going to die in a nuclear holocaust. But so maybe we should do a poll. We got some people in the chat. We can ask, are we all going to die before the end of the year? But no,
I pray every day to Allah that whenever they launch a nuke, it hits me on my bald head before.
Hey.
Yeah, let's all die. I want my Huris.
He wants his Huris.
We're approaching we're not far from the hour and a half mark. Unless anyone's got any pressing points, I think I'd like to wrap it up. Unless people want to go around and kind of give their last words on it. Unless you've got another point you want to raise.
I just want to point out that while Nick has done a marvelous job, all right. There's a lot of work, and I know how it is, but I must admit it gets very long. And if you have maybe 5,000 potential people who are interested in the topic as such, there's going to be 2 or 3 left who are actually willing to go to this level of detail in a program like this, in a sort of channel like this, where maybe it would make more sense just to go to the pertinent facts and show what is happening, why it's happening, and what the consequences are, and then just go and say, this is the situation, and I've outlined it, instead of going to this level of detail, because you lose people like this. I think this is my personal opinion.
Yeah, that's possible, but to be fair, I think we did need to do a bit of the history. To be fair, to give it,
absolutely,
and to be honest, I don't. To be honest, it took us a while to get started anyway, so I don't actually think the presentation went on that long. I think it was maybe 40 minutes or something. So the rest of it was just us gearing up and talking in the beginning. So maybe we should have got into the topic a bit quicker.
Jumped into it right away.
But Julie, no. But as I say, we're still running at less than an hour and a half, so I'm not too unhappy with that. That's I think that's a reasonable length of time.
Stopped. The backstory for this, I was actually researching this for a different project that I was doing, and my research document is 140 pages. So I actually.
Oh, you're doing a PhD?
No, it's for this script that I'm writing for this documentary slash film that I'm doing. So I want to make sure it's actually as accurate as possible.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so we got the really
article-
short version here today. So
Yeah.
count yourself lucky, Stops. We didn't get the 100-page
Moose knows personally how hard I go when I like actually start researching. So.
Oh yeah, this man goes very, very hard, very detailed. So we have to kind of like, okay, pick out what's the most important. You don't have to exactly state everything.
So
No, it's nice
now I understand the Avatar. Now I understand why he's going to play the lead role.
Oh God.
But
It's nice to have a different topic, though. We've been going through the 70 cents.
It's nice.
We're going to be carrying on, so it was nice to have a bit of a break from that and do something kind of current. And and it was really nice to have you guys back on as well. I don't know. Does
Drastic. I did hear some British, Pakistani, and British Indians going at it somewhere. Was that true? What happened?
What, recently over this?
Yeah.
I've not seen that. I mean, there have been previous clashes in the city of Leicester, which is in the East Midlands, in England, over a cricket match, between Hindus and Muslims. I'm assuming that there'll probably be some tensions in any kind of towns where there's Hindus and Muslims living, but I haven't read anything about major clashes or anything. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, I've heard like there was like some potential about like some clashes between Pakistani and Indian British persons. Yeah,
I think it was last year, possibly the year before. Now, God, the time flies. There was a cricket match, and I can't remember who won, who lost, but between India and Pakistan. But it did spark off basically a kind of mini riot in Leicester, and there was people fighting stuff in the streets. So that is the last time I've heard of any kind of conflict like that. So yeah, I mean, I hope it stays that way. But no, I've not heard of anything like that happening this time around. So
yeah, Jen says the other day they were chanting Hanuman Chalisa in front of the Pakistani. Protest.
I don't know what that means. Can someone explain that to me?
Yo, hey, Nick,
the Hanuman Chalisa is a prayer towards the deity Hanuman. I actually wear the locket on my chest as well. And it's basically people actually mention to like say when you're like talking to like a devil or something, and it's supposed to give you strength.
Sorry to interrupt. I think there was a protest. Jenny, you talking about the protest that was in front? I think it was outside an embassy, and there was some. Because I think I saw something. There were some Hindu protesters who were like shaking water bottles and laughing and stuff like that in reference to the potential cancellation of the treaty. I did hear something like that. I don't know if that's what Jen is talking about, but I think that was really minor. Though it was a small protest.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully it doesn't escalate. Let's just hope it doesn't escalate. I have some travel plans. Yeah, involve the 50.
Anyway, it's good to see some names here in the chat which I recognize from 15 years ago. Like TJ. TJ's been here. I don't know, as long as I can remember. And
TJ showed up.
Wonderful.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, well, we do. I mean, look, this is what I'm trying to do. Is we do have 2,000 subscribers this channel, and I know people move on, and the show's been going on forever. But if we can, it'd be nice to get back some of the old people as well as get some fresh blood watching the channel. So yeah, it is nice to see TJ, and also Smile previously was here last night and last week. So yeah, hopefully we'll see a bit more of that as we go along. But
yeah, will you guys go to Discord or after, or I'll be jumping on for a few minutes.
I can do. I mean, it's not that late at the moment, so I mean, I can do a bit of Discord if anyone does want to go to Discord.
No, I've got a new computer, and I need to really sort this out because there's still a lot of things that don't work here.
Does anyone have the Discord link for the Gin and Tonic channel?
Let me pull it.
There
up.
was.
Someone can put it in the.
This will not be valid anymore because I had one from 5 years ago, so this will not work anymore. Because we used to have it at the in the description of the video.
Yeah, I mean, I took it out because the Discord server has been so, almost no activity on it.
Desolate.
There's more activity on my Discord server, and there's almost no, and there's virtually no activity on there either. So, but well, look, if anyone knows the Discord,
Yep, I have it right here. I'm just putting it in.
Oh, okay, good man. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to go over there for a little while and have a bit more of a chat because I haven't seen you guys in a while. So I'll pop over for a bit. But look, I want to wrap things up now because we're over the hour and a half mark. So, Nick, thank you for an excellent presentation. Nice to see you. Moose, thank you for your
for the invasion.
No, it's good. No, it's lovely to see you both. And as ever, thank you, Stops, for being my helper monkey tonight. That was great. So. Oh, well, we're not going to go with that. No. Oh, all right. I'll find a kinder name then. So we're going to wrap things up. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone in the chat. And we will see you next Friday at 8 p.m. UK time to carry on the 70 major sins of Islam. Good night, folks.
Take care.